President Kiir returns to Juba after attending a regional summit in Nairobi. Ethiopia pledges to support South Sudan's education system. South Sudan marks World Press Freedom Day. Welcome to the News Hour with Rejoice Tio Samson. Those were the headlines, and coming up is the full text of the news. The 5th Northern Corridor Integration Summit ended in Nairobi on Friday with leaders from the member nations calling for joint efforts to spur infrastructure growth in the region. The summit noted the progress on the implementation of Northern Corridor integration projects derived from the previous meeting in Uganda. As Garang John reports, President Kiir also briefed the summit on his meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State in Juba.
East African Northern Corridor is set to accelerate infrastructure development among its member nations. Leaders from the Northern Corridor bloc converge in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, to review the progress made on implementation of the directives given during the 4th Northern Corridor Integration Projects meeting held in Uganda this year to provide direction on deepening regional integration. The summit considered the ministerial report and noted the progress on the implementation of the Northern Corridor integration projects, raised the need for the member nation to implement infrastructure development policy in the region. Speaking to SSTV after the meeting in Nairobi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Barnaba Marial Benjamin, says South Sudan will resume construction of its highway as well as constructing hydroelectric dam.
The purpose of this meeting is to coordinate major projects in the region. For example, the railway building. For example, the railway from Mombasa to Nairobi on to Uganda and on to Gulu up to Juba. This is a project in which South Sudan is involved. South Sudan is involved in the pipeline program, that is the Lamu-Juba pipeline. We are also involved in the process of the building of roads and highways, the sharing of and supply of hydropower, in which, for example, countries like Uganda that have more hydropower, they can also supply the Republic of South Sudan. Issues connected with the transports of goods. So this is what they call the Northern Corridor countries, and they are concentrating mainly on projects that need to be promoted in these countries.
Dr. Benjamin added that South Sudan President General Salva Kiir might brief the summit on his meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in Juba on Friday, reaffirming his commitment to meet the rebel leader Riek Machar at any time and venue to discuss ways of ending the political conflict in the country. General Kiir briefed the President of Uganda and Kenya on the renewed peace efforts to return South Sudan to normalcy. Dr. Benjamin says South Sudan strongly support IGAD's decision to form deterrent and protection forces to guard civilians and key installations in the country.
The President also was pleased, and he briefed his colleagues about his meeting with the Secretary of State of the United States and his commitment in responding to the requests of the IGAD presidents and Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And the President assured them that he has no problem to meet the rebel leader, Dr. Riek Machar, in Addis Ababa under the mediation process of Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. He briefed them also about commitment, the commitment of South Sudan to peace, to cessation of hostilities, and also to the formation of the protection and deterrent force, which is supposed to be built from the 5 countries to protect the oil fields, also to protect the monitors in the area, where the verification and monitoring mechanism will establish a coordination mechanism.
The 5th Northern Corridor Integration Project Summit which ended in Nairobi on Friday, seeks to promote rapid infrastructure development to accelerate economic growth among the member nations. Garang John, reporting for South Sudan Television.
The government of South Sudan says infrastructure development continues uninterrupted as the region pursues peaceful means to resolve the conflict in the country. The minister in the office of the president, Awan Gold Riak, made the remark in a statement to South Sudan Television shortly after President Kiir returned to Juba from Nairobi, where he attended the 5th Northern Corridor Integration Project Summit. Speaking on behalf of the president, Awan Gold says the government is fully committed to ensure basic service delivery to avert the impact of the political crisis in the country.
Coming from Nairobi on East Africa Northern Corridor meetings on the projects. The meeting was fruitful. We went yesterday on the last summit of the heads of state, where our president also briefed the summit on the latest development in our country about the visit of Secretary Kerry and the latest development that we are looking for in case we want to achieve the peace in our country. We see that we cannot stop proceeding forward with our projects. We do the same thing, the same time projects. We also do our efforts, and that's why our president was touring the region a few weeks ago, and also this one is part of it, in realizing the projects that can bring development and prosperity to the people of South Sudan. And at the same time working on peace initiatives where we have the talks taking place in Addis and involving our people here, and especially those who are in the camps. We know that the rain season is here, and we feel that it's a good thing that we interact together, they come out and do more things for our country. We will not just wait to see the war is over and then we do the rest of things. So we will do them both together.
Deputy Speaker of the National Legislative Assembly, Jasmine Samuel, and the accompanying delegation returned to Juba on Saturday after participating in the 9th Conference for Africa and Arab Business Women held in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. In a statement to the media upon arrival at Juba International Airport, Jasmine said the conference drew participants from 55 countries and discussed issues related to enhancement of trade and economy among member countries. She also revealed that South Sudan has been admitted as a new member of the organization.
من المؤتمر إنه كيف المرأة في الأعمال يقدر إنه يتمكن نفسه، أو إنه كيف الحكومة يساعد النسوان في مجال الاقتصاد. فهم رحبوا بنا كدولة جديدة إنه لازم أن إحنا نشارك معهم، وكنا مشينا مع 10 سيدات في مجال الاقتصاد أو في البيزنس، وهم برضو قدموا الكثير من عندهم في مجالات اللي هم قاعدين يعملوا هنا في جوبا في الاقتصاد، وهم برضو عارضوا حاجاتهم بتاع الأعمال كنساء من جنوب السودان، وهم كانوا 10 وده مرة نمرة 2 عشان ما هم يشاركوا. لكن نحن كبرلمان دعونا لأول مرة نحن نمشي عشان كيف نحضر معهم الاجتماع، وكيف إنه كحكومة بنقدر ندعم المرأة في مجال الاقتصاد.
Ethiopia says it will help South Sudan improve its education sector by sending teaching staff to assist in its 5 public universities. This came in a meeting with the National Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Dr. John Gaio, and his Ethiopian counterpart, Demitu Hambisha Bonsa, in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Dr. Gaio had been in Addis Ababa to explore ways to spur South Sudan's education sector, returned to Juba on Friday.
In the country, the National Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Dr. John Gaio, accompanied by the Director General and Legal Advisor in the ministry, were in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, to discuss with his counterpart means and ways of partnering in the quest to improve the quality of education in the youngest nation in the world. Dr. Gaio said his visit to Addis Ababa aimed at seeking how best education can be improved in South Sudan. He said South Sudan and Ethiopia will sign an agreement on education between the two nations. While the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Sivriu Siguti, says he will help South Sudan in training of teachers and also to provide teaching staff in the 5 public universities of South Sudan.
We are ready to support our neighbors, especially you brothers who study with us, and we share people, not only the borders. With the same language, with the same blood. People, we share people, not
our manpower. Training has got different components. One, we have 5 public universities, 3 big universities and 2 small universities. The big universities, they do normal work of the university, producing students with bachelor degrees, with masters and so on. The smaller ones are geared towards science and technology. But because we have been semi-independent for it, and almost 9 years now, the actual capacity in South Sudan, if we can, for the upcoming academic year, if we can probably work out input for 200 students in those fields.
While in Ethiopia, Dr. Gaio met with his Ethiopian counterpart, the Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Demitu Hambisha Bonsa, and explored ways the Ethiopian government can help the young nation improve education standard.
So we have to cooperate to work with each other for our further development.
He also emphasized on the need to educate children to build a well-informed society, adding that education can serve as a tool to bring the country out of the current conflict. After his tour to Ethiopia, Dr. John Gaio returned to Juba on Friday. He's speaking to SSTV after arrival at Juba International Airport. Dr. John Gaio said he will send a team to Ethiopia to work on the terms of reference and ways the Ethiopian government can assist South Sudan in enhancing its education sector.
Yeah, we have just arrived from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where we went to visit the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Science and Technology. It is a follow-up to the discussions we have had with the Minister of Education of Ethiopia in UNESCO last September. We also concentrated our discussion on the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding that we have signed in 2012. We particularly emphasize on 3 basic areas: cooperation between our universities and how we can train various levels of university lecturers. We also discuss issues pertaining to the training on management of the universities, vice chancellors and deans, because the Ethiopian experience is an evolutionary experience that we think is very useful to us. We also discussed the possibility of cooperating in the areas of vocational and technical education, which that's where we requested the Ethiopian government to assist us in training first teachers of Institute of Teachers Training Institute, so that we can train the tutors for those institutes. We have requested that the training should take place in South Sudan, where the teachers' institutes are. We also requested them to provide us with some scholarships, particularly in the area of technical education, in which they agreed. We requested 500, 300 scholarship for technical education, which we need to work out modalities for implementation, which we can then agree how to sponsor it. They may waive the tuition fees, and we may, as a government, provide the accommodation and other activities. The other 200 will be for undergraduate and other postgraduate. All these details will be worked out by our team here, and then we will send them to the Ethiopian Minister of Education, and then we agreed on the dates of implementation. Generally, the Minister of Science and Technology is separate from the Minister of Education in Ethiopia. We are working on signing a memorandum of understanding so that they assist us to help the Science and Technology Directorate, which we have in the ministry. I find this visit to be useful in the sense that it is in conformity with our plan to visit our neighbors and friends to see which areas of cooperation.
South Sudan on Saturday joined the rest of the world in commemorating the World Press Freedom Day. The event, organized under the theme Free Media, Key to Development, drew journalists from across the country. The discussion focused on the role of the media in society and the safety of journalists.
Freedom Day under the theme Free Media, Key to Development. While in the national capital of South Sudan, Juba, journalists from all media houses in Juba gathered at Nyakurong Cultural Center to commemorate the day, urging for the government to enact the media bill into laws to regulate journalists' daily activities. They also call on journalists to give accurate and balanced information to the public. The National Deputy Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Honorable Rachel Nyadak, was the guest of honor during the World Press Freedom Day celebration. In her address remarks, Honorable Nyadak thanked all media development partners and said the President of the Republic declared the gathering as his personal commitment to the press, adding that media is a way of passing information and information is power.
Allow me to declare this gathering the commitment and assurances of our President, al-Bashir to the freedom of press. President says, I am for the freedom of the press because people of South Sudan brought me to power in the freedom democratic environment. However, I reject the adoption of bullet as a means of accessing power in South Sudan. Under this satisfaction, the government of South Sudan joined the private and international institutions globally to celebrate the World Press Freedom Day as a third anniversary today, which made all of us to be happy, and it is a very important day to us as people of the Ministry of Information. That's why you can see all of us here.
Salah Khalid, who is representing UNESCO in South Sudan, revealed that the United Nations approved the World Press Freedom Day, focusing on interrelated issues of the role of media in development, the need for safety of journalists, and matters related to development of journalism.
This day, because it's a day to encourage and develop initiatives in favor of press freedom and to assess the state of press freedom worldwide. a reminder to governments of the need to respect their commitments to press freedom, a day of reflection among media professionals about issues of press freedom and professional ethics, a day of support for media which are targets for the restraint or abolition of press freedom. It is also a day of remembrance for those journalists who lost their lives in the exercise of their profession.
In a briefing during the celebration, the head of communication department in the University of Juba, Chaplain Kara, advised journalists to stick to their ethics and take their safety as personal matter.
The role of journalists, as we all know, is to inform the public, is to educate the public, is to entertain the public. In doing this, journalists should endeavor to be accurate in their reporting, they should be impartial, and they should be balanced in the reporting of news. And the first principle of journalism is the truth. So journalists must endeavor to tell the truth. Journalists' responsibility is not to individuals, government or organizations. Journalists' responsibility is to society. Therefore, to promote this responsibility of journalists to society, they should be protected by media laws. Journalism or journalists are also partners in development in any country. They should not be seen as an opposition to the institution of the state. They are working together as partners to promote government objectives, to promote government policies, which are intended to be good for the people. So government and journalists are partners in development. They all aim to do the best they can for society.
The occasion was attended by journalists, parliamentarians, media development partners, and concerned citizens, among others. Jacqueline Perino Ephraim, reporting for South Sudan Television in Juba.
Moving on to Warrap State, where the governor, Nyandeng Malek Dilej, issued decree number 19 for their 2014, relieving the state minister of health, Paul Del Gum, from his post. Governor Nyandeng also issued decree number 20 for their 2014 for the appointment of Honorable Paul Del Gum as Minister of Information and Telecommunications. Another decree number 21 for their 2014 appointing Nyanawut Mayen Kwol-Deng as Minister of Health. The decrees come into effect as from 1st May 2014. And now to Eastern Equatoria, where the state governor, Louis Lobong Lojori, has commended the SPLA and other organized forces for keeping up to their constitutional mandate of maintaining peace and stability. The governor further urged the soldiers to do more to ensure peace and unity of the population is secured and promoted. Addressing the forces in the state capital, Torit, Governor Lobong said the state is enjoying relative peace and stability due to the commitment of the armed forces. Lobong urged the armed forces to unite and refrain from rumors that are aimed at inciting divisions. He, however, added that the armed forces in Eastern Equatoria have displayed the spirit of unity and loyalty to the country.
The purpose of my visit to all the organized forces today was to give them a word of thanks and encouragement, because organized forces in Eastern Equatoria, since the failed coup attempt started last year, December, up to date, they have maintained and kept security in the state, and they have been very cooperative in listening directives of the state authority. So one was really to to thank them and also to encourage them to continue to do the same and to do more. I was always to acquaint myself with issues that they are facing, the challenges that they are facing, so that the government can be able to listen and see how we can address some of the issues.
And talks between government and David Yaoyao's group has resumed in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. As Kizito Keta reports, this round of talks would finalize the draft document agreed by the two parties to attain final peace deal in Greater People region.
Why all the peace agreements is taking place in Ethiopia capital Addis Ababa. Here, the government of South Sudan is engaging in parallel two peace talks taking place in Ethiopia capital Addis Ababa. One, a peace talk between the government of South Sudan and the group of Dr. Riek Machar is here taking place in Addis Ababa. However, the government of South Sudan is also holding a peace talk between the group of David Yaoyao, which is entering into its final stage, after the initial documents of the agreement was signed by the negotiating teams. However, on this very note, the government of South Sudan and the group of David Yaoyao are now discussing on the implementation metrics of the final text of the agreements, which will result into final peace deal inked in Ethiopia capital Addis Ababa. All this is done in the quest of restorations of peace in the Republic of South Sudan, once again in the nation. For South Sudan Television in Ethiopia capital Addis Ababa, I'm Kizito Oketa Modest reporting.
Northern Bahar Ghazal State Legislative Assembly has passed the Agricultural and Forestry Policy. This was revealed by the Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Lual Dao Marech, shortly after passing the document. He said that the policy statement has been passed unanimously by the State Assembly. Dao added that the ministry is mandated and will try to change the traditional way of farming to the mechanized system. He said the policy will convince the communities and encourage them to increase food production. Minister Lual also condemned the current crisis in the country instigated by renegade Riek Machar and his group, adding that the rebel activity is hindering agricultural development in the country. Authorities of Lopa County in eastern Equatoria have helped reconcile the village of Iboni and Lehilang after a long misunderstanding over cattle and other issues. Area Member of Parliament, together with the County Chief Administrator Albino Omoyang, urged the two villages to stop confronting each other. The area legislator in the state, Hassan Urbano Alex, warned the locals against causing conflicts, saying it is time to embark on food production. The Lopi traditions for reconciliation were evoked, with the two sides vowing to coexist peacefully.
Nina ma derin yal pitana imut kalam pita bagar.
Ebe ma kurre loe oye geram no gere.
Inna derin yal pitana ishtagal.
Ake kurre loe nyargema.
Yezra full.
Kado al full.
Kanjibu 50 shawal.
Ene yan shawal do mana mir.
Bibiu le munazamat NGOs.
Elinya raji la ele Allah la tate gugu lo toro mile tele. Sala ndo do dangro gurusi.
Bijabiu bagar.
Oto nyam ngere.
Uwe bukoni ndu zariba.
Ojon je wun obok. Ana der gul. Akni gijo. Kalam detani kelima kara nafsu. Hera mene gorobe ngai das wallo go nyi.
And now to end the bulletin, let's have a quick review of the news headlines. President Kiir returns to Juba after attending a regional summit in Nairobi. Ethiopia pledges to support South Sudan's education sector. And South Sudan marks World Press Freedom Day. That brings us to the end of the news, and thanks for being with us, and bye for now.